Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teenaccounts.
Sunday morning. Well, joining us again today is, Congressman Guy Reschenthaler from the great state of Pennsylvania, and he is the deputy whip of the Republican Party in the Congress. And, you got important elections coming up this November, and you're the deputy whip. Tom Emmer is a good friend of mine too, and he's a real tough guy, and you're both tough guys. You're a Navy man. You were a JAG guy. Tell us, how is it shaping up? Are we going to be able to communicate to all the American people that common sense has to prevail, and the Democratic Socialist Party that's trying to take over the Democratic Party, you can't have socialism in America?
Right. No, John, well, first off, thanks for having me back on your show. Always love coming on with you. What you got to look at with this with this election cycle is, even though the president isn't on the top of the ticket, it's imperative for us to prosecute the case to the American people that the presidency, the Trump administration, is on the ballot. And what I mean by that is this. Even though the president is not running for election, if we lose the House and Hakeem Jeffries comes in as the speaker, what we're going to see is 2 years of pointless investigations. They're going to impeach the president every other Tuesday just for the fun of it. They're going to go after the cabinet, and they're really going to try to disrupt the administration and stop the MAGA agenda and MAGA movement in its tracks. So what we've got to do is we've got to convince our base and our low propensity voters, frankly, people that would usually only come out in a presidential year, that they've got to come out this year, because it's just as important as it was 2 years ago to get Trump back in the White House.
I agree with 100%, because common sense has to prevail. And right now, in the Democratic Party, the Democratic Socialists have tried to take over the Democratic Party itself. And there's very little resistance. Between California, Illinois, New York State, those blue states are really, they're beyond blue. What do you call the Democratic Socialists?
We really don't have Democrats anymore. Your Democrats of yesterday, your JFKs and so forth, your basically your grandfather's Democratic Party, those are now Republican voters, because the Democrats now are just infiltrated with the basically socialists, Democratic Socialists of America. I mean, it's in their name, and they have very wild leftist ideology. I would argue anti-Western, anti-capitalism, and you're seeing them win all these races. You saw it right here in New York with Mamdani winning the mayoral race. And in all these primaries that are playing out across the countries, it's always the Democratic Socialists, the Mamdani-backed socialists, the AOC-backed candidate that's beating the more centrist Democrats. And what's happening is your traditional Democratic voter, your blue-collar worker, is coming over and voting for Republicans. So it's an interesting shift to see, but it's more important than ever that we beat the Democrats, because the Democrats have an agenda. Again, I think it's anti-Western, anti-American. They want to raise your taxes. They want to throttle the economic engine that is capitalism here in the United States. Every single bad idea, they have it. From state-run grocery stores like Mamdani is doing, to making sure that you have to have paper straws instead of plastic straws, boys and girls sports, you name it. They're on the wrong side of every issue, yet they're continuing to win in these primaries, and we've got to beat them in the general election.
Well, let me tell you the way it is. You know what I tell my friends, especially the Democrats? Trump, is he a Republican, or is he a businessman first, Republican second?
I would say he's more pragmatic. He's more the businessman. He's not in the traditional...
I know him for 50 years. He's more of a businessman, and he's a Republican because he's common sense businessman. A common sense businessman is a Republican too.
Yes.
And the fact is that he's doing the right thing for our country. He's doing the right thing, getting rid of terrorism for our country. He's getting, I said to him when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, I said, can we make America drug-free? I don't understand. And I used to be a Bill Clinton Democrat 100 years ago. I mean, I still love the guy, but I can't understand why this Democratic Party they're bringing in drugs to kill our kids. Why are they opposing to us knocking out those? You're a Navy guy. Why are they opposed to knocking out those drug boats?
Well, I think there's a knee-jerk reaction on the left from the Democrats to just oppose anything the United States military does, to oppose anything the president does. In terms of fentanyl deaths, let's call this for what it is. This is warfare by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, against us. They see getting fentanyl into the United States as twofold. One, they view it as some kind of revenge for the opium wars of yesterday that the Brits led. Okay. And I know that because I've been to China. I've talked to Chinese officials and leaders, and they will tell you about the opium war and how fentanyl is kind of just something we've got to deal with now, that it's kind of our turn. But there's also a point of fentanyl killing military-age men, particularly in Appalachia and the rural South. And they view it as a way to just thin our ranks. I hate to be blunt about it, but it's true. And the Democrats will prioritize the open borders. They like the chaos. They like illegal immigrants flooding across the border. And they're really apathetic to the fentanyl deaths that you're seeing with wide swaths of America. And just getting back to the illegal immigrants coming across, there were many reasons why the Democrats allowed this to take place. But one very obvious reason is they ultimately want to count the illegal immigrants in the next census and expand Democratic representation in the House. And if they could, they want the illegal immigrants to vote to make, because they assume the illegal immigrants are going to vote Democrat. And if you think that's crazy, go to Washington, D.C. You don't have to be a citizen in Washington, D.C. to vote in their local elections. In other places, like I think New York City is like that too. So they want to expand the vote to illegal immigrants.
Yeah, but for federal elections, you have to be a U.S. citizen, and that's why we're trying to pass that bill. And President Trump has to put his foot down on that, because you can't allow non-citizens to vote in federal elections.
Exactly, and that's the Save America Act, and we're working on that. The House has passed it. We're waiting for the Senate to pass it. The issue in the Senate is they can't get 60 votes to pass it. So you're left with the question of, can we block Senate bills in the House? And there's certainly a lot of Republicans that are doing that now. There's a letter that's being drafted in the works. We've got people positioning to do that. Or if you're in the Senate, do you get rid of the filibuster to pass the Save America Act? What do you do? I don't know. That's a Senate problem, but we need to pass Save America Act because you need to make sure that it's an American citizen that's voting in the election. You need to make sure you have voter ID. And this is very popular with the Republican base. But John, you know what? It's really popular with the Democratic base. It polls with Democrats like 70%.
Common sense.
Common sense.
Well, Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, Deputy Whip of the Republican Congress, thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning. And God bless America. We need God's blessing, and I think God sent Trump to us to at least get rid of the terrorism in the world, and the free world has to prevail.
Absolutely, John. Thanks for having me on. Always appreciate it.
Thank you so much.